Olá, pessoal, seja bem-vindo ao canal Ano da Figueira. Se você não é inscrito, se inscreva, deixa o like, compartilhe o canal. Então, eu andei pesquisando sobre a novilha vermelha e entendi o seguinte: existem duas fontes seguras sobre essa informação, que é o senhor Byron, que trouxe as novilhas do Texas, que doou as 5 novilhas, e o Instituto do Tempo. Tirando essas duas fontes seguras e de um rabino messiânico humano, que é o que cedeu uma parte do terreno lá no Monte das Oliveiras, o resto é especulação. Tudo que você está vendo aí na internet, principalmente os YouTubes brasileiros, não são informações corretas e não vêm de fontes seguras. Então eu trouxe para você informações seguras sobre o sacrifício da novilha vermelha. Ela não foi sacrificada, eu vi as imagens, elas são atuais, não foi, mas já tem data para ser sacrificada sim. Aí você segue aí vendo o vídeo.
Closer and closer to the prophetic sacrifice of the red heifer. Watch to the end of this interview to find out when the ceremony will take place, how many viable cows still remain, who is going to perform this ceremony, and much more. Byron Stinson, it's great to have you
Esse
back
aí
here
é o
on
Byron,
Charisma to give us an
que é o que pode te dar informações seguras.
red heifers that God used you to bring to Israel. How many of them did you bring from Texas to Israel, and how many of them are still viable for this sacrifice today?
So we were able to, you could only import up to 5 pets. They had to become pets to get them into the land. And so we imported 5. And what happened, we held them for a time close to an area that's close to Gilgal, the very entry place into the land for the children of Israel. Then we were able to move them to Shiloh, which is the second place where God moves the tabernacle tent from Gilgal to Shiloh. So they're following that same footprint, basically. They're now at Shiloh. There's all 5 of them are there. 2 have grown some white or black hairs. And so they're no longer good for the ceremony, but they're excellent for breeding. So we searched for the reddest of bull that we could find and got his semen, imported it into Israel, and so we have 2 of the cows are now bred back to be able to hopefully have some more cows being born for the future generations. So there's 2 of them been bred back, and there's still 3 that are pure, could be used for the ceremony.
Yeah, another very important part of this ceremony is the priest that would have to do this. How close are we to having somebody able to actually perform this ceremony?
It's getting closer all the time. You know, the ceremony hasn't been done over 2,000 years. The priest has to be a very young priest. He has to be raised for this duty from the time he's born, basically, keeping him as pure as possible. And so there are about 3 or 4 possibilities of that. They've been young men raised in the line of the Cohen to do that. And we have one young man that's he is actually practicing, and it's moving forward. Also, there's a lot of logistics around it that have to be done in preparation, a lot. And so all of those, it's taken this year for everything to be discussed and decided on and move forward, but it is moving forward.
Just out of curiosity, I know one of the things about the Cohen or the priest that would be doing this sacrifice, they cannot have been around death. And so if he is practicing this on, I guess, some sort of other animals or whatever he's doing to practice this, doesn't that bring death upon him as well? Or help me understand some of that.
Well, everybody's around death, but the part that keeps him pure is staying away from human death.
Okay.
It's the human bones, that's the bones really is the main thing that represents that death. And so it's staying away from human death. And so that's where he's been protected, and wasn't born in a hospital. Is kept above, mainly in an upper room, so you'd be 9 arm lengths away from possibility of being contaminated by human death. Don't go to the cemetery, those type of things.
Did his parents raise him with this intention in mind from the very beginning?
Yes, absolutely.
Wow. So it's not just kind of finding somebody like a needle in a haystack. They have been really raising him for this. Wow.
Yes.
There's a lot of forethought and planning that goes into this. And you said there's a lot of logistics about actually moving the cows from Shiloh to the Mount of Olives, which is where this is going to happen at a particular place overlooking the Temple Mount. Tell me about this location, what you can.
So the location from Shiloh down to, it's actually not going to the Temple Mountain, but you're going to the Mount of Olives. We won't go on to the Temple Mountain with the cow at all. And so the location on the Mount of Olives has to be very precise. It has to be east of the temple where you can view right to where the temple will be built. And it has to be at the height of the temple. You can't have it too high up on the Mount of Olives or too low. And so what happened many years ago, I think about 13 years ago now, the organization that I work with started many different projects in the land, was offered an opportunity to participate in securing that piece of land, that perfect piece of land. So we've had that for many years, and I believe that'll be the place, but there also has been some discussion of other places that might be available. So I'm not sure exactly where it'll be at this point, but the locations are available.
So what needs to happen next, or what is the next step in this process? Because we still have 3 cows that are available. We have a Cohen or a priest identified and has been practicing. It seems like it could really happen any day now, and we've made it through the fall feast. We're now coming up to Hanukkah, which is the Feast of Dedication, the Festival of Lights. Then we have the spring feast as well, which we have Passover and things. So there's sacrificial elements for all of these, or there's sacrificial opportunities for all of these things. Is this just going to happen on some random day, or is there a day that it's really appointed for this?
Well, you got to remember, it's not so much a sacrifice as it is a ceremony, and it's the very first thing. When Moses was in the wilderness and God appointed this ceremony, before that he had already explained the law and how to build the tabernacle tent, where everything stood and all the things prepared. But to begin the real process of using that temple or that tabernacle, it had to start with this red heifer ceremony. And I told you before, and I believe this with all my heart, that this red cow is a physical representation of Christ's spiritual work. And so to me, it's not planned by the rabbis, I don't believe, and they can do it. It doesn't have to be on a certain holiday, it's not prescribed in Numbers 19, it has to be a certain time. But it seems like to me, as I've been in this hunt, we've gone through all of this, that it always turns out exactly precise, just like everything else is precise. It's amazing how God confirms who he is. So I, as a believer in Yeshua, and knowing that many of the rabbis that are doing this had not come to belief in Yeshua, they believe there's a Messiah coming, and they believe in him, but they haven't seen that as being Christ yet, or Yeshua, Jesus. So, but I personally feel like it will happen because at a perfect time, because it gives more glory to God. And for me, that perfect time would probably be around Passover. That's not been announced, but it makes sense to me that those 3 feasts of Passover would be the time that this purifying water purification, and all this would happen at that date. So I won't be surprised if God does it at that date. But that's just Byron. That's not planned by the rabbis.
Are you going to be given a heads up whenever this is going to happen?
I probably will be, but I won't be able to tell people that. So
it's understandable.
Yeah, it's one of those things that it's not meant to be controversial or against anybody. It's just a ceremony that is being performed physically by the fathers of faith.
Então ele deixa aí que ele não pode falar abertamente, mas que ele entende que é na Páscoa desse ano e tem que ser deste ano. Não precisa ser numa data específica, mas será este ano. E segundo ele, no entendimento que ele não pode falar claramente, seria na Páscoa. Então, que Deus abençoe vocês.